All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of Changing the Climate, a show where I bring on guests to talk about the changing world around us and how we can make it better. I'm excited to introduce my very first guest, Mr. Darian Elmendorf, founder of Compass Peer Services. Now, I have to admit him to the meeting. All right. And we are live with Darian. Darian, hello. How are you?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Not too much. Starting to think I could use a pair of headphones, but we'll get there someday. Like in your studio, like in your setup.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm surprised this stuff works.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it's working. First episode, everybody cut me some slack if the audio's messed up, if we're not exactly live. We will get there. We will get there soon. Cool. So I'm really excited. I've never done anything like this before. A little nervous, a little hyped. So yeah, I mean, I think we should just start by giving some background on like the two of us. So yeah, I've known Darian Elmendorf probably since I was about 5 years old, which is pretty cool. And we actually both studied entrepreneurship at separate universities. He went to University of Delaware. I went to University of Colorado Boulder. And I'll let him take it from here.
All right. Well, it is also my first time doing something like this. So nice. I'm really excited. Thanks for having me. I think it's a great idea. And I appreciate, you just going for it. So my name is Darian, and like Ethan said, I also grew up in Ringwood, New Jersey, from Skyline, best part of Ringwood.
Hands down.
Hands down. And what could I say from here? I mean, growing up, and this is where I'll kind of bridge things together like later on when we kind of get deeper into conversations. But, growing up, I was always one of those kids who was just feeling a little bit lost in the crowd, you know what I mean? And I didn't really know like what I wanted to do with my life, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. And for a long time, for a few years, I felt really down all the time. I was, feeling really hopeless at times, helpless at times, like depressed, anxious, struggled, with thoughts of suicide. Fast forward a couple of years, when I'm in college, same thing, studying entrepreneurship, absolutely loving it. But I'm just thinking to myself, what am I going to do when it's all done? Am I going to just work at a job? You know what I mean? Am I going to hustle my whole life to just pay, like at the end of the day, help somebody make more money and work for them and not for myself, and not be happy and, do what I want to do and make a difference? So about my junior year of college, I got involved with a student mental health group on campus. I saw it as a great opportunity to, demonstrate my leadership and to bring some entrepreneurial spirit to the table. I was started by a group of my friends who, were all really passionate kids. And at the end of the day, I just really related to all of them and why they were starting this group. It was really tragic. A student by the name of Connor Mullen had taken his life on campus. And it was really just a shock to everybody. And, just seeing them all rally behind this cause and really trying to make a difference, I got really interested. I joined.
What was the name of the group?
The name of the group is called Friends for Friends, UD.
Yeah, so at the University of Delaware. Got it.
Right. So I joined as the events director. I said, hey, this would be really cool if we got some local artists together, raised some money, had a little concert, out on the green, and brought over like different student groups that were passionate about mental health. We had like therapy dogs there. We had people there doing yoga, teaching yoga. We had games.
So it's kind of was all about like positivity then, just in general.
Right. Yeah. It was just a whole like wellness and creativity and arts thing going on. Ended up raising a lot of money that we, donated to the counseling center. And we got a lot of students that were just like really interested in what we were doing. And we kind of skyrocketed as a group, and it was really cool. Made a lot of great friends, but at the end of the day, the one thing that group really did for me was it allowed me to be vulnerable with like all those struggles that I had growing up.
And this is all while you're taking classes that are teaching you how to start a business and make money as well, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And the cool thing about my classes is, a lot of people argue you can't teach entrepreneurship. Well, you can give somebody the opportunity to go out and try it, right?
Sure.
And so a lot of my classes were just like, go and try something. Take something you're passionate about and just try to build a business model around it, or try to build technology around it. That was
learn while you go. That's like the entrepreneurial motto, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of my classes, which was honestly really cool.
So just to give some background, this is now 2018 we're talking about?
Yeah, this would be
early 18.
17, 18.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I started in the spring of my junior year, and then I was on the e-board of this group throughout my senior year. And yeah, like I said, that all my teachers in my classes allowed me to take the work I was doing in Friends for Friends and kind of apply it to their methods, their processes around entrepreneurship, around app development, whatever the class was, startup, business model generation, and there was a lot of classes on just overall leadership and design thinking and creativity. So all just really cool stuff. So then now nearing the end of my senior year, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? My parents are like, why don't you have a job yet? Like, what are you going to do in the summer? This and that, blah, blah, blah. Kind of came to the realization at some point throughout my senior year that I didn't want to get a job. You know what I mean? I love doing this mental health stuff. I really thought that what this club, the effect that this organization had on myself in being vulnerable about my struggles with mental health, and the impact that it had on the students that were in the group, like visible impact. I'm talking, students in rooms of people who they've never even met before, saying, I've never said this in front of another person, but I need to get this off my chest because I'm really close to taking my own life.
It's very serious stuff.
Very powerful stuff, man. Very powerful stuff. And it was really just that vibe. Like, we've all kind of been there. You know what I mean? We've all been through it. We understand what you're going through. You're not alone. We're here to help you get through this. Do
you think that's like one of the most
was contagious,
important parts? Just not feeling not alone. I'm just curious.
I think it is. Yeah. And
isn't that kind of what the core of what you do is about? Is just creating more environments like what you're describing. No.
Right. So yeah, I'll discuss a little bit about that.
Yeah. I just wanted to backtrack. I mean, it's hard. What your work is very, very serious. But I can't help but pick up on that comment you said about how you kind of just decided you didn't want to get a job senior year. When I remember when me and you were 17 in Spanish class or whatever, talking with Dan Key about how we're going to take over the entire world, starting a three-way business.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It's been brewing for years. You studied entrepreneurship. I mean, you're learning to get, that's what college really is getting to know yourself. You're taking the time to know yourself. And I just kind of really believe that the person, if you're an entrepreneur, you should make a business that's kind of representative of you. And that's kind of like what I love about your business. Cause why I know you'll be successful, because you're so passionate about the topic. Anyway, sorry. I just want to get my words out in the wavelength, but we're getting to the business.
It's funny because I always think back to, I know exactly, we were in, who was it, Mrs. Ferguson's class in like biology or something. And we were just like all in the back talking about how we're all going to be millionaires, like selling hemp products.
I was ecstatic because like everything we were saying, I could just see occurring in the future. And obviously now Dan is a musician. You have your own business. I have my own business. I mean, I won't rule it out in the future. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to get out of college. We're going to get Dan and Darien going. We're going to move out to Colorado and we're going to make a machine, It's just funny
I think it really planted a seed for all of us.
Of course.
All, kind of doing our own thing, which is like really
Dan
cool.
loves music. So he's doing his music. It makes him happy, and that makes sense. And you're going to keep telling us about what you're doing.
Yeah. So where was I? So towards the end of senior year, I decided and don't get me wrong, I work part-time, and I'll get into that. Like, I do have jobs.
Yeah.
But I didn't want like a full-time job at a business firm. I kind of wanted to see what I could do my own thing. So I applied to a 3-month business accelerator through the Horn Entrepreneurship program.
Can you give a little background? I know what accelerator is, but can you just say?
Right. So essentially it's a pretty intense 12-week program where you're in a cohort, you're in like a group, almost like a class.
Shout out Boomtown Accelerators in Boulder, where I interned.
I think there was 10 of us in the cohort, and you could be by yourself, you could be with a team, and you essentially had to pick a problem, find a problem, because all great companies, all great businesses, ventures, everything starts with a problem, and go through the process. I mean, the instructor we had, his name is Vince DeFelice. He's absolutely,
to be clear,
brilliant.
This is after your courses are over. You elected to take this after graduating.
Right. So I graduated June 1st. So literally
2018, right?
19. So literally about a year ago today, or not today, but
Gotcha.
June 1st, like,
okay, I remember now.
Almost a full year ago. And the program started June 3rd. So I had 1 day off, and then it was right back into it. And it was a meritocracy, which means you get out what you put in. But we were pushed. So you literally have to go out and talk to people who have the problem that you think you've identified and figure out how to make money off of it. That's right. That's literally, like, if I could break it down into its simplest form, it was, you pick a problem, you go out, you validate that problem, you try to figure out a solution, how you're going to solve that problem, and then how do you make money doing it. If you can't do those three things, then...
Did you kind of have the problem in your head already, though? It sounds like
I had
started this.
Well, yeah. So like I said, the impact of that person-to-person interaction, right? That person who's been there, working with that other person who's struggling, was my concept that I was looking to test. I was like, what does this mean? The hardest part for me in those 12 weeks was, how does it make money? So, for a while I was getting shot down. They're like, it doesn't matter if it heals people, figure out what the business model is, or else, like, if you're a nonprofit, you still need a business model. If you're for profit, you need a business, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how your company is structured, what your company does. You need a way to bring money in the company, or you're not going to be able to do anything. So that was my biggest struggle for a while, but yeah, it was a really awesome experience, really intense. I mean, really got me exposed to working 12-hour days, staying up until 4 a.m. and waking up at 6 to go present my progress, and then get completely shot down by, local business people. I mean, they brought in a lot of, influential people from the area to just donate their times. People who have done it before, who have started successful companies in various industries, people who were, involved in just a bunch of different things, and influential, within kind of the business and entrepreneurship, I guess. Sphere, yeah, here in Delaware. And surprisingly, there's a lot, because Delaware is a very great place to start a business.
You were doing this, how many times did you get shot down? Like, was it like you had like practice pitches, or was it like, how did it work?
So we had, every week we had to do a practice pitch, and it was essentially like your 10-slide investor pitch.
Yeah.
So we had to do one of those every week on Thursdays in front of a review board. And then on Tuesdays we had people come in, but we didn't have to give them a pitch. We just sat down and picked their brain. So it was kind of like, they're like, just go talk to them. They didn't really give us much, much direction there. You just had to make the best of it. And if you weren't there, then you missed out. And,
do you want to get into explaining like what your idea was that you ended up sticking with?
Yeah. So throughout that, really my idea was like, how do I connect people virtually to provide
Yes.
this like level of support that I mentioned earlier?
The close connection that you feel from someone having a similar situation to you.
Right.
Is what it is.
You can refer to it as lived experience with mental health, substance use, just lived experience.
Experience.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I just want to get some terminology going so I can understand.
Yeah. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of jargon that I'll have to explain.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah.
But so what I
found, the brain, it's complex stuff. So like, it's really hard to understand, you know, you're talking about people's vast different life experiences and trying to find a way to help someone who's been scarred. I mean, there's so many, there's psychiatrists, there's therapy, there's all sorts of different things. And then at the end of the day, there's you know, not you, but you. And yeah, it just.
Yeah. So me, as you just mentioned, what it's called and what I found through this process is that there's a professional out there in the health and social services industry called a peer recovery support specialist.
Peer recovery support specialist. Correct.
And what these peer specialists do is they use their lived experience with mental health and substance use to advocate. Training?
Yes. Or is it just experience?
Yes. There's training, there's certifications, it's all legit. So they use this lived experience to empower patients, to advocate for patients and patients' rights, and to really guide them and navigate them through different resources throughout this journey of recovery. So when I discovered that these peers existed, I was like, I need to become that. And I need to fully understand that. And I need to take that and I need to innovate that and scale that. Because
why do you need to become that? What about you makes you want to do that? I know you gave a bit of background. I'm just curious, like what's the heart of that?
I think it's a mix of, you know, me receiving it to some degree through this, you know, through this organization that I talk about. You know, when I was going through stuff, I definitely have friends who, you know, I still talk to today who were like peers, you know what I mean? They just sat down and they listened to me. They didn't judge me. They didn't tell me I should go see somebody or take medication or this or that, or they say, oh, you're depressed, you know, you're weak, this, whatever. They just listen to me and they understood and they say, I get it. I've been through there. And if it's okay with you, I would like to share my story. That's the very basic level.
So it's really hard for someone who's never been involved with, I don't know what you call it, an experience like that to really get what it's like. Can you try and put into words? I know it's a hard task, like the emotion or like what the strong connection is that you felt when
I think it's just like, because I remember when I was, you know, going through some really difficult times, having thoughts of suicide and just really like, you know, there's no controlling it. It's not like I want to think about dying. It's, you know, there were times where I would just wake up and it would be the first thing that I would think about, just involuntarily. But the worst part was that, you know, I was just so afraid that if I had told anybody, they were going to think of me differently, you know, because I just going through my head, I was like, you know, hey, I came from a great family. I have a great group of friends. Like, I really had nothing to complain about. So, you know, why do my problems matter? And if I, you know, talk about them, what's going to happen to me? What are people going to think about me? What are my parents going to think about me? You know, am I going to be put on medication? Am I going to be labeled
this gets to a huge problem that I've noticed, like, and I want to talk about on the show a lot, which is just this, like, the lack of dialogue and like people just keeping secrets from others and getting angry and talking behind people's backs. I know humans are humans. They're going to be flawed, but it's just like, man.
I mean, I really thought that like my problems were my problems and no one would ever be able to relate to them, you know.
I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really why we all bonded so well in this student group, Friends of Friends, is because we all kind of felt
Is it nationwide?
No. So it's only at UD.
Okay.
But yeah, so essentially, those are what the peers are. And the reason why I was like, I need to become a peer specialist is because I knew this was how I took that original thought, that original concept, and made it repeatable, scalable, and actually, a service that brings in revenue.
I'm kind of missing exactly how that would work.
So it's a billable service. There's billable services. So just as you go to your therapist, and your therapist bills your insurance company X amount of dollars for one unit of service, which could mean like an hour of cognitive behavioral therapy, or it could be something much smaller, like, oh, they gave you this test and they have a certain billing code for this test. Peer support services are billable.
Is it like as a group or as an agent? Sorry,
there's all different types of
so you've obviously pitched this like dozens of times. Would you be willing to do it again right now?
To give a pitch?
Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be a hard pitch, but like
I can give a quick elevator pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's
I was sort of getting to there.
Sorry.
But so the reason why I wanted to become a certified peer is because I knew that I had to become the subject matter expert, and I knew that I'd be good at it because to some extent I did it before. And I just absolutely love the idea. And I think that it was, I was really during this time looking around for solutions, like already existing solutions that were serving college students, and not a lot of good ones were really working. But what I did see was working was that, like, when students are talking to other students about it, they get each other, right? But when students are talking to, older generations who don't have that lived experience, it was a little bit harder for them, right? Because I know I personally felt this. I was opposed to therapy because I would have already, in my head, I was like, this person.
Do you have like hard data to support that as well? Like how many like peer meetings have there been on the campus of UD? Like, how old is the organization?
Well, for students, there's not a lot of hard data on peer support. It's something that, we're hoping that we can even get some data. But there's tons of data on, how peer support has helped various different populations in various different settings achieve outcomes.
So not just students. Not just students, no.
Right. All ages, all types of disability. I've seen peer programs for first responders. I've seen peer programs for
kind of like AA?
CEOs. Sort of. I think it actually, it very much took after AA and took after those models. But it came out of, reform and the social justice movement for the lack of treatment, the lack of proper treatment of people who were in inpatient facilities and, wrongfully hospitalized for their mental health and kept there against their will. There's a lot of history behind it, which we don't have to get into.
Right.
But yeah, so just to kind of give you a little pitch. So fast forward, to now. So at Compass Peer Services, we help health systems, and I'll explain what a health system is because again, a lot of jargon. So we help health systems offer digital peer recovery support.
Digital peer recovery support.
Yes.
Like a Zoom call with a friendly person who's been in a similar situation to yourself.
Right.
Right.
So
and then you mentioned telehealth on the phone as well, which I'm sure you'll get into.
The idea is that we want to partner with, by health systems, I mean existing institutions. So if it's a federal health system, it could be the VA, it could be the Department of Defense for military. If it's a local or state health system, it could be like public health. For example, the Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health is under Delaware Health and Social Services, which is where I work part-time. That would be an example of a public health system. So people who are enrolled with Medicaid or seeking local providers in their state who don't have private insurance, they go through the public health system.
Yes.
And private health systems can be, for example, universities. could be private practice, community behavioral health, community mental health centers. So the goal is that we help these health systems, we help these institutions offer digital peer support. So we take our hybrid model of meeting with a person and leveraging technology, and we plug it directly into what they already have and wrap it around their current whatever. If they're offering treatment, if they're already offering peer support, if they're offering, basically we take a look at what they're doing and we help make it better by offering these digital recovery support services. And the goal of these services...
Are you getting paid by the health provider, or are you getting paid by the patient?
Well, it depends. Both is the answer. So because it's a hybrid model, right?
So to make it easy, let's say that I've been feeling pretty down lately, not good on life. And I really I'm going to the doctor because I'm so anxious and I don't know what to do and I don't want to take any medication. And then your service is offered. I'm in Delaware. How would something like this work?
If you're, for example, like a student at a university, you have health insurance. You have
Well, what if I'm not a student? What if I'm me and I'm working in the grind and life's really getting to me, man, and I want to talk to someone and I have this public health, so it's available. I'm saying, like, how would it work?
Right. Public health is in, like, so if you have Medicaid.
So I have Medicaid.
Right.
Yeah.
So Medicaid. So we would essentially provide you the service
through
technology, through telehealth.
Compass, or through your health. Okay,
Compass.
right. Because Medicaid is the provider, and it would be like on your website. I would go.
Right, but we would partner with. So if you went to ABC
hospital or whatever
resources, hospital, and they were partnered with us, they would outsource all of the peer support to us. So we would work with you to basically assess your needs, address what are known as social determinants of health. So peer support differs from traditional treatment because traditional treatment follows what's known as the medical or the clinical model, which is a patient is treated at a site. It could be virtually, it could be at a practice for illness, right? So there's pathology, there's symptomology that they're looking for. They're looking for symptoms, they're looking for traces of, depression, traces of schizophrenia, traces of even physical illnesses, but you get it, right? So that's the clinical model. Mm-hmm. The person-centered model, they call it person-centered, they call it a recovery model, is you're meeting the person where they're at. So there are these things called social determinants of health, which are basically underlying social factors that can contribute to health outcomes. So I'll give you an example. Imagine being homeless. You have nowhere to go. Yes. You have nowhere to sleep. It's really, really hard to live like that. And, a lot of people who are homeless, they become depressed. Mm-hmm. They become anxious. They develop mental illness. And they also could potentially develop drug problems. Another example of social determinant of health is, your social environment, right? All your friends smoke, you're probably going to pick it up too. And if you do smoke, that's something that...
I made it out of Ringwood without smoking a single cigarette. One of the only people in my entire friend circle.
But you get it, right? So
would a homeless person they would then admit themselves to the hospital, say, I'm having feelings of suicide, and you would then connect them with someone who's already been homeless and gotten out or is currently homeless? Or am I on the right track?
Well, if they're going right to a hospital, then they'll probably have their own protocols at the hospital to treat them. You know what I mean? But traditionally, I'll give you an example. So right now, with my job in the state, I'm doing what are known as wellness checks as a peer. So there are a couple hundred homeless individuals and staying at hotels in the area. One of them, the hotel that I'm working with, is right down the street, the Wilmington Sheridan. So these individuals who were recently homeless, very much at risk of contracting COVID-19 because they have nowhere to stay, nowhere to self-isolate. But they were all, to some degree involved with the public health system. So we got them placed into hotels, and I do calls for them to basically check and see how they're doing. And, kind of help them with their transition out of the Sheraton into a more temporary supportive or permanent supportive.
This is your job.
My job.
About, not your company.
I work part-time for that. But if you can think about it, it's essentially kind of the same thing, right? So the peers in the person-centered model, I'm not calling them, I'm not telling them that they need to go see this provider. I'm not telling them that they have this problem, that there's this, that, or the other. I'm listening to them talk. Some of them just vent to me and they say, like, thank you for not calling me and telling me that I need to speak to this person. And thanks for just listening. And it was great talking to you. And you can hear them just feeling better after that call.
It's one of the most important things in life. And it's literally what we're doing right now. I mean, me and you live on separate sides of the country. I mean, we hardly get to talk, but see, I have social media. I use social media. I'm really much, much bigger on like actual conversations with people. Cause I think that in a way, like it probably is very clear that it's the best therapy. Everyone, typically group discussion classes, or at least for me, were a lot more interesting, a lot more therapeutic, because everyone's just out here in this world, alone. And it's great if someone is just going to sit down and listen to you, and you can actually tell when they respond and say things like, oh, wow, he actually heard what I said. He's thinking through what I'm saying. Everyone wants to feel like they have a place in the world. And I see like it's so easy in our society to think that you don't, because there's so many of us and there are always so many people telling you what to do and how you should do and judging the way you do it. And yeah, I mean, I could see how it would be great to just talk. I mean, I talk to people before the lockdown. I would talk to new people every day, and it's my favorite part of the job. Some people want nothing to do with me. Other people want to talk for 2 hours. I don't know if they have depression or thoughts of suicide, or if they love their life or hate it, but we get to talk. And like it's a simple, easy therapy in life. It's like one of the first things humans learn to do to get on in life. So
and it's funny, because I absolutely love what I do, and I talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I'm talking about it a lot right now.
Yeah.
But
that's why you're here.
I have a strange way of pulling it out of other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
and getting them to open up to me. That I don't even mean to do it. You know what I mean? I just talk about what I do, and I get really passionate and really into it. And then I end up having, a 1 hour, 2 hour conversation about all of this stuff that we're talking about now,
that's
hearing
why
about
I told you
their struggles. And
that's why I told you to push that next call back, because we're 33 minutes in and we're just getting started here.
We're just scraping the surface.
Yeah.
So essentially,
give an example.
Yeah. So we're talking about the recovery model, right?
Yeah.
So it targets the whole person, right? Whole health, beyond just the mental health,
which is so important and relevant right now,
right? Because it's all connected, right? Your
immune
financial
system,
health is connected to your mental health, your environmental
that's a little bit, that's complicated.
Well, if you have no money, you're going to be pretty upset about it. I can promise you that.
I'm doing all right.
If you can't afford food, if you can't afford afford a place, you know what I mean?
Yes.
If you're in debt is a huge thing that just kind of lingers in the back of your mind and causes a lot of people a lot of harm. So the peers, they address all of these different dimensions of wellness. There's 8 of them to address the person as a whole,
including you.
8 dimensions of wellness. So there's physical, mental. I can't list all 8. Environmental, financial.
Okay.
So those are just some examples. And they kind of tie along with these social determinants of health. Includes education, access to intelligence.
Did you take any courses in health or psychology?
No, I learned all of this stuff
at the group.
Just throughout the past year.
Yeah.
Ever since, stumbling upon peer support. I'm actually in training right now. This is my second training. I already took training, but I'm taking training again. Weird. It was supposed to be
Not
live.
weird.
It was supposed to be in person. The first one I did was online. It was a company in New York has this online training, and then the second one was supposed to be like the state training, so I can get certified in the state of Delaware. But they had to jump to virtual now. And I've, just been, you don't have to be certified to work as a peer. You just have to have some basic training, basic experience. So I've been essentially working as a peer, and also trying to, put together this company. So yeah, the goal with peer support, and this is almost kind of industry wide, is what's known as behavioral health integration. So not specifically just peer support, but behavioral health integration is integrating these whole health approach essentially to different degrees
All eight
into
what is it called? All eight what?
Dimensions of wellness.
8 dimensions of wellness. Is there any?
There's tons of different
pull it up
models.
on my screen?
Sure.
Like
yeah.
What they are?
Yeah, you can.
Right,
I
hope
Google it.
nothing weird comes on. All right, let's see. There's my music, everyone, and the live stream. Yeah, there you are. All right. Eight dimensions of wellness.
Right.
Shout out Ecosia. Everyone should be using it. They plant trees with the ads the money they make from ads on searching stuff. So let's see where I'm at.
So go to images. And
yeah. I'm at 273 clicks or whatever, which is like 10 trees or something, or 3 trees, which is cool. Bear with us on the. Oh, here we go. How about this? This one looks simple. There we go. Office of Indiana State University. So 8 dimensions of wellness. You got your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, your intellectual wellness, financial wellness, environmental wellness, social, spiritual, and occupational. What's like the background to this theory? Do you know like who like coined this stuff?
Oh, no, I don't.
Not important. I'm just curious if it's like
I think I can't remember if it was in the training who actually developed this model.
So occupational,
but yeah, I'm not good with the history.
All this stuff with someone, you can connect on a spiritual and social level. You could potentially have the same job,
right? So
same physical, emotional, or intellectual state. Same.
So think about a college student at the center of all that, right? They don't have a job lined up. They've been drinking beer, right? Treating their body like
probably
crap
every day. Yeah.
They have maybe they broke up with their girlfriend. That's a social thing. Maybe they failed a class and have to retake a class. That's an intellectual. You can consider that an intellectual thing. So all of that stuff together can lead to depression or just really high amounts of stress, which has been shown across multiple studies to induce anxiety and depression, especially in young people.
Can you define anxiety for me? Because I really don't understand what it is, and I feel like I get anxiety.
Yeah, anxiety. I mean, there's different levels. There's different types. But
can there be good anxiety?
Anxiety is, there can be good anxiety, to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, I know Logic has a song where he passes out on the way to see Star Wars and wakes up in a hospital bed and says that was anxiety. So it seems like there's a huge spectrum to it.
Yeah, so essentially anxiety is like the fear of things that you can't control, or can't directly control.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So you get anxious about your life because it's out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
And that can lead to spiraling thoughts,
or even the perception of lack of control.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's
you're not in control of your own life.
Right. It's like I could do something about this, but I don't know where to start or where to go.
It's so interesting the way people work. I know I can think one thing one day and then I can think that way forever. But other times I'll be so focused on one thing. And then like after a few weeks of getting information, I'm like, maybe this other way of thinking makes more sense. It's funny, people, how much time can have an effect on the way you think about things. You could be certain of one thing one day and totally fickle and change your mind the other. And I think it's almost human nature to be like that, especially for a lot of people. And that can lead you to a bunch of consequences that could be harmful or maybe helpful if you find your path eventually. But
yeah, I mean, it could be physically harmful. I mean, stress releases stress chemicals and I forget what it's called, cortisol, and I forget what the other one's called. But anxiety is the most common one. I mean, I think there's the statistic is like 60 or 65% of adults have some form of anxiety.
So anxiety is fear driven?
Because I feel like not like fear in the sense of like I'm afraid. It's just sort of
I feel like I have anxiety right now, like nervousness, like, oh, my first podcast, we're live, we're trying to do a great job, we're trying to do it well. And I feel what I think anxiety is like unrest, and it can be up to crazy other levels. I know I have a friend who got really, really anxious about the virus before it even was in the news, and I feel like that, and it can drive you mad. Anxiety. I feel like anxiety's a feeling, is it not? I don't really know what it is.
I would say so. I mean, there's definitely times where, and I agree with you. Like sometimes I have to get on a call or do something that I've never done before, like get on a podcast. And
this is your first one, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, everyone, cut us some slack. We're doing well here. We're laying it on the line. This is a really serious topic to start with. So
we have some anxiety.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really can be. It can be just this. It could be like, this is our first time doing it. We're a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
Or it could be something that's like, very, very overwhelming. Like I have 4 exams due tomorrow, and something happened at home, and it's just really consuming like your energy, your mental energy, and you just feel overwhelmed to the point where you can't even study, you can't focus. It affects your breathing. You just feel like you have a weight on your chest. I'm sure like a lot of people can relate to times where they just felt overwhelmed. I mean, that feeling of like, I'm overwhelmed, I have so much going on, I don't know what to do. That's anxiety. In many cases. So it's a very common thing for people to experience. It doesn't mean it has to be diagnosed as anxiety. You know what I mean? If it's chronic, if it's happening all the time, if it's happening because of things that, you normally can just sort of shrug off and not really worry about that much, then yeah, I would recommend, talking to somebody about it. But, everybody at some point in their life has experienced some form of anxiety, some form of like, I think that's
definitely,
oh crap,
true.
Oh shit, what am I going to do?
Yeah. So I was just looking up the countries in the world by suicide rate. Russia number 3. That's interesting. Lithuania number 4. Anyways, so the U.S. is down at number 34. So I'm just curious about like the demand for your service, and I really want to get into more of like the business aspect and what you've kind of been doing day to day for the last year, so people can really understand why there's a need for a service like this. So we talked about the whole, what was it, the 8 divisions or whatever of wellness, and how we do have a culture that is just down to drug people like all the time. Like we have, but whether people want to admit it or not, we have a very drug centric culture. And I know, me and you probably were more like the hippier kids in our high school, but this whole like idea of like a circle of health and like having all your levels of wellness be aligned, rather than just like going to extremes. Like if you're depressed, just take a pill that will make you happy all the time and that will work. Like, I know we don't have like studies that we can pull up, but I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of evidence to support that a more holistic approach will work. Sure, it's harder than just buying a drug, like talking it out, but like kind of what I believe, like there's no limit to the power of communication between people. That's why I'm doing this podcast. Giving people a voice is just so important, because it makes them feel like they're worth something, like they're human, and everyone deserves to at least feel, once in a while, give people a chance to feel like they're worth something. Anyways, yeah. So I'm just curious
I completely agree with that last statement. I mean, my vision statement for Compass is that we want to really liberate people from feelings and thoughts of hopelessness and helplessness, and give them control, keyword control,
it's in here,
over their recovery journey. Because if you think about it, and I love making this analogy because I think it perfectly kind of helps you understand how we should be addressing mental illness. You break your arm, you go to the doctor, you get a cast, and you get told, expect to feel better in 3 to 4 weeks.
This is
it's pretty much
so important.
It's pretty much, every time. In some extreme cases, maybe, there needs to be surgery or whatever, but that's the process you go through. Mental health and substance use disorders are not the same at all. So recovery in those, two domains, or across behavioral health in general, has been something that has been redefined throughout recent history. And there's a really great article, a really great resource from SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, basically the Federal Administration for Substance Abuse and Mental Health, called the Working Definition of Recovery. So everybody's different. Everybody goes through their own different struggle, and it's up to the individual to really take control and define what recovery looks like for them. So traditionally, people thought, okay, well, recovery from alcoholism is being, clean and sober. But for how long? What's the threshold? How do you quantify
So this is the idea that everyone's
recovery is different.
Everyone's medicine is different because the problem is so subjective. It's in their head. So the solution is essentially going to come from inside. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. So that's why the peers are so important, because really at the end of the day, what they do is they empower that patient, right?
Yes.
They give them the permission. They give them the control and the guidance and the support and the advocacy to go out and define what recovery looks like for them and get access to those resources, right? So if you don't want to go to therapy, you don't have to go to therapy. That's your choice. You have the right as a patient to refuse treatment, to refuse medication, because it's your choice. It's your health. And, a lot of people, especially, in recent times, a lot of people were being institutionalized for very minor things, and they had no say, right? They had no rights. They had no one advocating for them. They weren't allowed to be let out. And a lot of them knew, like, hey, I would be much better off if I could be with my family, with my friends, and maybe try meditation instead of being locked up in here and being, given medication.
Can we circle back a little bit?
Sure.
So what I'm thinking is, this service, was it like how well did it work for you? Well enough for you to want to sell it to everyone and think that it's like godsend? Are you down to talk a bit about your personal experience with what happened with everything? Like so you think you've reached a transition point now that you're working so hard, you're doing your thing. I'm just curious, like how it became what you want to do with your life. I mean, I'm not trying to pigeonhole you that you're going to be with this company for 30 years, but you want to get this going and spread this to more people. So I'm kind of curious, what profound, can you like tell us about the profound experience that you had with peer services?
Yeah. And yeah, definitely. And, it wasn't really, we were just a bunch of college kids talking about.
Thanks for doing this, man. I know it's super personal, but this is
it's fine. Listen, I talk about this stuff all the time. And really where I was going with this is that my ability to be vulnerable about, how I'm feeling and what I'm going through and what I went through, it really changed my life a lot. just being comfortable talking about this stuff and not feeling any judgment and not feeling, like anybody's going to think of me differently. Understanding now that I'm not alone in having these thoughts, and it's not like they're just gone, and I don't ever feel down or anything, but I know that other people do too, and it's okay, and they're out there, and I can talk to them. And
is it really a lot about not feeling judged, or is it about judging yourself in a more positive light?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, everyone's different, right? This is just my story. But for me, it was like, I just remember sitting with a group of kids and I think we were planning one of the events, and we just stopped working and started talking about our experiences and our stories. And I was a little bit hesitant. I was a little bit shy to kind of open up about some of the, discussions that we were having. But, and this was completely we didn't plan for this to happen or anything. But just hearing other people be so open and be so vulnerable, I was like, I feel comfortable around these people. I can get this off my chest, right? Let them know how I felt. And just getting it off my chest was huge. And it just made me feel so much better. And I was like, wow, people understand. You know what I mean? And
do you think it might be different when you're paying for this service?
Well, if you're covered with
that person was your friend, right? You guys were in the middle of doing something and you stepped
right.
aside and got into this awesome deep chat, which is one of my favorite things to do in life as well. But I'm just, sorry. I really want to try and relate it to your company as much.
No, it's fine. And I mean, the goal is, for most people, we don't want it to be out of pocket. So
gotcha.
If you go to a physical, maybe you pay a copay.
So it's for disenfranchised people is kind of more your
not always. Not always.
Okay.
I mean, if you're covered with insurance, our goal is that you'll be eligible for services. And there are a lot of models out there that don't charge people for peer support. They just have
the
groups.
Suicide hotline, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's not, it's not peer support, but it is still, it's very similar. It's advocacy, it's support. Whether or not it's a certified peer specialist on the other line, doesn't matter, right? Because you don't need to be an expert to just sit down with somebody and listen to them and relate to them, which is why I think it's so beautiful. It's like all of these people, especially with
so I'm
support.
I can't help but think of like an agent, because I'm a realtor. I'm just thinking of an agent who helps people, or is it not really like that? Is it volunteers, or I'm just trying to figure out how the whole financial system works and how you get people in a realistic way to get these services.
It depends on the model, but our model, what we're looking to do is we essentially we become I use this analogy, right? So you think about, you order a product from a company, right? And you're having a problem with it, and you call them up.
Selfie stick.
And you order that selfie stick, and you call the company that sold you that selfie stick. You call their support hotline and you say, hey, my selfie stick came broken or whatever. That person you're calling is a support person who more than likely is contracted, outsourced essentially. So we're looking to bring that same concept and provide health support to these pre-existing health systems, right? And what we do is, in order to get paid for these services, is we have a contract with whoever that provider is, right? So if it's a veteran service organization, then the VA is the payer, right? Because the VA covers people who get services at veteran service organizations. If it's a student, then it's the student insurance companies. So for example, Delaware is with Aetna. So if we have a contract with the University of Delaware and Aetna, then we say, okay, we have the capacity to serve X amount of students, and we get, essentially, it would be I'm just making up numbers here, but it would be approximately $250 to $500 per student per week for whatever, whatever level of service that we provide. It would usually be 2 to 3 units or hours or check-ins per week for that rate per student. So if we get a contract with them for 1,000 students, then I mean, I can't do the math off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but that's essentially how it works, right? So we're able to bill the private insurance company if they have the services authorized. So it gets really, you know, specific to the state, specific to the provider. But we're able to bill for those services, and then we pay the peer specialists an hourly wage.
An
So that's
hourly wage.
essentially
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But
there's
we
how
bill
many
for the
peers?
service.
How many peers are there at Compass?
Well, we're not there yet. We're
Okay.
still working on that.
Yeah. It's funny
yeah.
you mentioned Aetna. I actually so they're like whatever headquarters I think is in Hartford, and I actually did a jewelry sale there just about a year ago, which is funny to see. Like here I'm on a podcast and you're talking about like them providing health insurance. Interesting. You're not there yet. So are you talking? So where are you at then exactly? Today's May 28th, 2020. Obviously, I'm imagining things have been a little weird these last few months, especially with reaching out to new people.
Yeah. I mean, so our goal is not to be the only ones doing this.
Yeah.
We share this problem with a lot of different organizations that are looking to do something about it, right?
Yeah, sure.
So as one of the big things I studied in college was social entrepreneurship, right? So how do you put aside your own ego, your own, try not to be the only one, the one that holds all the equity, the only company doing this, cornering the market, and actually partner with other organizations to solve the problem, right? Because the goal is to solve the problem. The goal of social entrepreneurship is to solve the damn problem, right?
Yeah.
But you have to do it in a way that makes money. So realistically, I don't want Compass to step on people's toes because we're trying to do the same thing, right? So I'm going through active partnerships right now. So currently right now, May 28th, I am speaking to an organization down in South Carolina, a veteran service organization that I'm hoping to pilot with. So they already do peer support. They already have group programs, already offering group support for veterans. I got connected to their president and chairman through my COO. He lives down in South Carolina, and they had this huge problem because when COVID-19 started, they weren't able to have their group sessions anymore, and they said these were really working and people really benefited from these, and we really want to make these better, right? Make these more accessible. And make them more organized. And we came in and we said, we have the technology to do so. So that's one example of, hey, we can come in and you guys already are offering peer support. Let us, give you access to our technology. We'll figure out the details.
Can you explain what telehealth is to me?
Yeah. So telehealth is essentially, digital healthcare services, and there's all different types of definitions. There's telemedicine, telehealth, telepsychiatry. Right. But
do you guys use Zoom?
If you were no. So one of my partners has his own platform.
Cool.
And it's really, it goes beyond the capabilities of Zoom. It's made specifically for providers for mental health and substance use disorder.
Yeah.
But it would essentially be if it would obviously have more tools on the back end. And the front end, patient facing and provider facing. But essentially, if right now you were talking to me and I was your doctor, I would be able to essentially treat you or support you through this channel, through this virtual channel.
Yeah.
And bill for it.
God, this must have blown up in the last couple of months for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You think the trend will continue? Or do you think people will be going back to see their physicians in person just as much as before? It almost makes sense. Like if I could just pay like $25 to talk to my doctor for 5 minutes, like I don't know if that's how it works, but God, I'd like to do that.
And it makes a lot of sense for the providers too, because if you're, for example, if you're a therapist and you're going in opening up the office, right? Spending a couple hours of your time to open up the office.
We're paying rent to have the office as well.
Paying rent to have the office, paying all these other things, utilities while you're in the office for 2 patients.
So sorry, what are the advanced capabilities that your technology has over Zoom specifically when it comes to providing like support?
Well, it's the whole. So it's not just the virtual communication. We're trying to pull together, integrate all these different technologies, right? So there's conversational technology, which is essentially AI, natural language processing.
Well, all right. This is like your world right now. We just slow down. You're talking about artificial intelligence for mental health. So what does that even? What would that even mean?
It's a chatbot.
A chatbot for someone who's depressed.
You can use it for a number of things. You can use it to administer assessments. You can use it to provide people more information and navigate them to the right provider, right? So
it's like those personality tests online. You answer a bunch of questions and all of a sudden it knows like who you are, what you're dealing with, what your dreams are. And that's like on another level if it's actually like doing computations and creating an algorithm of my mental health state. That is
it's
an incredible idea.
It's capturing data, which is a really cool thing.
Invaluable for improving anything. I mean, my whole business is based on collecting data, looking back at it and saying, that worked. That didn't work. I'll do more of the thing that did work. And then, wow. And then, you could talk, that's crazy. I'm thinking of like an AI peer. Like someone who it's like a virtual person that is suited for your needs. Am I outside the realm of
No, you're not wrong.
That's incredible.
We call them virtual navigators.
Yeah. Zoom doesn't have that. Yeah.
So there's the chatbots, there's the telehealth, so the virtual communication. There's the EMR piece. So EMR is electronic medical records. Essentially every doctor.
Wow, it'd be great if I could see mine. I don't even know where they are.
Yeah, essentially every doctor has some form of EMR. It's where they type in, this is, do they smoke?
I could have had chickenpox when I was 2 and I wouldn't even know.
Right. It's where they kind of capture all this data for the interactions.
Yeah,
and they use that to bill and prove that they said, it is yours. It is.
I know.
All that data, you can go and you can request it from your doctor, and they'll give it to you.
What if you had like 4 different doctors? You have to individually request from all of them.
Yeah, so that's another problem.
I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Europe. I've lived in Australia. My head exploded when I was in Australia. I got my brain scanned. That shit. Yeah, that's out there.
So there's the EMR, and now that you mentioned that, there's what I would call care coordination. Just to keep it simple, which is essentially, so you're recovering from, whatever severe mental illness, and you have multiple providers, right? You have your peer, you have your provider, you have your dentist, you have your primary care.
You got your mom.
You're going and seeing all of these different providers, but they're not talking to each other. They're talking to you, and you're talking to them on multiple occasions saying the same thing. So the care coordination is where we essentially take that whole, and this is where it gets really cool. Take that whole journey of recovery, and we literally map it out on one single dashboard. So you can see.
We as in Compass?
We as in, Compass and the whole treatment team. So
you're the one putting the pieces together for them, it sounds like.
Right.
Yeah. So this is a totally different dimension than just the talking and providing someone to talk. You're talking about something quite extensive. I'm saying now you're really starting to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So say, you met with your peer for 15 minutes on Friday and this is what you talked about, right? So your dentist can see that. Everybody in your treatment network can see that, and it's recorded and it's captured. So whether you meet with your peer and you set a goal, I'm going to do
accountability. I'm
going to go to bed earlier, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Because we're addressing just multiple dimensions of wellness and everything. You set a goal with them, or maybe you meet with your provider and, this happened with your interaction with your provider. It's all recorded. And you as the patient have access to that, and you can pull that right from the platform and take it wherever you want, right? So it's your information. If you move to a new country, you have
Do
all that
we
information.
do we not have stuff like this? Like if someone is like schizophrenic or something, like I'm sure like it's probably noted in their health records. So how is this is different to just like health records in general?
Well, it's basically health informatics, so it's just information,
Informatics.
and there's a lot of different companies that are doing this. Helping patients with access to their data,
And this is
moving,
so outside my
moving
realm
that data
of expertise.
Yeah, it gets really deep.
Yeah.
It gets really deep.
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, and then the last piece, which is actually the first piece in all of this, is the community. So really, bringing people together in a space where they can talk to each other, they can engage with each other, they can engage with content, right? Evidence-based content, so content that's backed by scientists, that's effective. It's not just somebody getting in front of a camera and voicing their opinion and putting it in front of hundreds of different people. There's actually studies behind some of this content, and it's really a space for people to engage with each other, people to engage with their peers, and consume content, and that's kind of like the foundation of everything. It's that community. It's being in that group of other people with shared experiences, and all of those other things. The telehealth, it all kind of stacks on top of that, essentially. And I mean, right now where we're at is we have all of those different pieces. We're working on pulling it all together. But obviously, we got to start somewhere. So we're trying to start with that community. We're trying to test this proof of concept and see, can we get, students on this platform to engage with each other and to
when you say
learn about peer
students,
support.
Is it just university students, or could it be high school, elementary school age?
You don't want to go.
Is there any way to like get to people while they're young and still developing even more so, and kind of just give them a place to talk if they feel
right? I think for us, for liability reasons, it would probably be 18 and older. I haven't really looked too far into much younger demographic, which is why I'm always saying college students, because it's 18 to 24, I guess.
But isn't it interesting? I feel like you're most moldable when you're young and you have the least amount of freedom of choice to pick your own stuff. When you're under 18, everything gets decided by someone else for you. It almost seems like that could contribute a lot to depression. I personally have never felt depressed at all, but I've certainly been furious with anger when other people try to make decisions for me, or like when I was herded through, I mean, whatever, I can get into a huge segue, but just it would seem like this would be so pivotal for like the teen years as well.
Yeah, and I mean, they have peer programs for youth.
But we want ones that
people
can really be extremely effective.
I like to think of it as, when picking.
This is a rampant problem, is it not? Let's see what it's 13.7. Is that 100,000?
I think suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages I think 15 to 24 or 13 to 24, something like that. So it's a pretty big problem for young,
so there's 1.4 million suicide deaths in the US in 2014. So, or 2016. So 2016 heart disease deaths. USA. Let's see. Top 10 leading causes of death in the US 2017. Heart disease is the leading cause. Let's see how many people. 74% of US deaths. Heart disease, number one. 647,000. So suicide in 2016 was 1 point. That's insane. Is that right? Or
There's a lot. I mean, it's not just young people. You got to think about it. You know,
in the U.S.?
It's
because
people of all ages, people of all backgrounds. It really doesn't discriminate.
That would make
People at the end of their lives.
suicide a bigger cause of death than heart disease. Is there any way we could, do you know if that's right or not?
Well, I think if you're talking about all ages, I think
Yes.
heart disease still wins.
Well, according to this, it's only 647,000. This is Medical News Today's article. 12 leading causes of death.
I'm not sure. I mean, you can get so lost in the statistics.
I know. This is like it's like you want to have like a little notebook or something. Heart disease, cancer, accidents, chronic respiratory disease, stroke. It seems to me like suicide kills more people than any of these diseases. I don't want to be wrong, but from what I'm seeing right now, it's number 10. Oh, what? So that's total suicides then? What is that on Wikipedia?
I believe so. I think the CDC has the best information.
They probably do. Okay, so it's number 10. It's preventable,
sounds
you would
about
think.
right.
More common among men.
Very much more common among men.
So it's number 10. There's 44,000. So it's nowhere near as bad as like other diseases, which unfortunately in this world this country, because, you know, you're kind of like competing, because if there's more people that have to be treated by another disease, that's where like the money is going to go. So you have like a tough battle here to try and get market share in this whole health phase, this whole whatever community or business environment.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you approach it. You know, I mean, because think of I think really like if you're looking at like a market opportunity perspective, you would want to talk about money, right? Health spending.
Well, I think if you're trying to run a business that's going to be profitable and not a not-for-profit, I think unfortunately you have to think about money. It's there. I mean, it's got to be the especially when you're just starting. It's got to be the primary. Is this? It doesn't, or it's more not money, but value just in general, and that sometimes can be expressed in dollar signs.
Right, and I think it goes beyond, you know, it goes beyond how much money is spent. I saw some, and I mean, I don't.
We just want the services to be available to people.
They're
not now.
I don't know the full statistic, but I read somewhere that like depression is one of the leading causes of lack of productivity, right? So that's money being lost. That's, you know,
Sure.
Efficiency that's not happening because people in the workforce are struggling with depression. So it's, you know, there's so many different ways that you can try and quantify this, but at the end of the day, it's a big problem. Right? So,
let's try and transition a little bit. Do you have any ideas? Like I want to give you a chance to kind of express your free thoughts. So not non-business maybe. Do you have any idea why like depression and suicide is so rampant in our society? This is not a question that has like, I don't think a definitive right answer. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the reason why it's gotten,
I think people our age, it's the worst it's possibly ever been. And I know people tend to point to like social media as a huge factor. I'm just curious what you think.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's social media. I think it's how
hard to
people
point the finger at one thing.
It's partly how you use social media that could contribute to, you know, depression, anxiety. But I really think you think about it, like we live in a world now where everything that we could ever want, or everything we can ever want to know is instant, right? Instant gratification is what they call it. So we are so used to, as a generation, as a society, instant gratification. Mm-hmm. But when you're dealing with chronic stress, when you're dealing with chronic persisting issues, and there's no relief, and there's no like, you know, you can't just buy something that makes it better. Right?
Well, that's why that's what we talked about in the beginning. Drug usage, even if it's of antidepressants that are prescribed, is so high, probably because people are like, oh, we just put a Band-Aid on it. You just buy a Band-Aid from the store and that should work. But when it comes to mental health, it's it's you, man. That's it. Like you're the project. And you know, it's like building anything. It takes time. You put work in.
Right. And I think, you know, with young people, I truly think that after a while, they, you know, it just kind of, there's no relief. There's nothing I can do. And
I've
that
heard
is
this
the only answer
from friends,
you know?
and I've always tried to help people as best I can, because I'm so just the way my brain's wired. I'm just not wired for depression at all. Call me an egomaniac or a narcissist or whatever you will. I'm happy. I've always been happy with myself. I've made the mistakes. I've felt down. I felt sad. I wish I did this. I wish I did that. But I've never once in my life felt like I hate myself. This is horrible. Like there's no way out. I've always been like, oh, man, I hope this is over soon. You know, never like I'm done. Like I just like it never occurred to me. And I've had a lot of conversations with people who have suffered with depression and just thoughts of just disdain for their own existence. And it's so foreign to someone like me. I almost always feel like, sure, I help by being a friend, but I don't think my advice helps at all with recovery, because I just don't get it. And that's what's so cool about these peers, is the idea is that they do get it and they've made progress, and you can make progress too. And that's why you're here. So let's keep it going, and we're here for you. Am I getting it kind of, or no?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, they're literally a role model for recovery. They not only listen, but they understand, and they use their story to show the individual, show the client, like, you know, this is what recovery could look like for you. You know what I mean? Like, I went through this. I mean, I've met with people that I've worked with who were literally, you know, they had nothing. They were on the streets. They had a garbage bag to their name. They were drinking every day. And these are people teaching me now. These are people who are showing me how to be a better peer and showing me how to better advocate. And they were in, you know, such terrible, terrible life situations. But even though their situation was different from mine, I was still able to relate to them to some degree.
And those are the stories you want to hear.
Sense of, right.
A sense of hope.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what it is. I mean, peer specialists are literally a catalyst for hope and recovery.
Hope is such an abstract concept, yet so powerful, because if you have it, the possibilities are endless, really. And if you don't, it's a spiral to nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I really think that, like, if you can contribute, you know, stress, anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide, to one word, it's hopelessness. You know what I mean? It's
hopelessness.
Well, yeah, I think the reason why a lot of people don't see, you know, the relief they want is because they don't have that hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was one thing, like when I, up into the point where I started engaging with these students in Friends for Friends in the student group, I started to feel that hope. I started to feel like, you know, whoa, like I could, you know, really find genuine happiness, and I can, you know, I can live with this, and I can be vulnerable about this. And I can find, you know, the things that make me passionate and make me want to choose life.
You just need
instead
hope.
of the opposite. It was really hope. And once you have hope, you start to get so many other things that, you know, you identify that you need throughout that, again, process of recovery.
That's so interesting. I mean, what I'm picking up from everything you're saying is it's very non-motivated by financial gain for you. You're very invested in doing something. This is why I really wanted to bring you on this show. You're very invested in doing something that's going to create a net good for society. We're going to change the climate. That's so it's like, we don't want to put, sorry, I've got all these thoughts running through my head. First podcast, I'm just thinking of like Andrew Yang talking about like not measuring the country by like GDP, but instead creating some sort of new measurement. Because like you were getting at, like, people with mental health problems, of course they're going to be less productive workers. Society is going to be less productive. It's like people want quantification of how things are going to improve. And it's hard with something like mental health. But then, so I've got all these thoughts about what you've been saying. And then it just gets me really excited, the idea that how scalable what you're talking about truly is when you start to put technology into it, and scalable in the sense that it's not about making money. It's about creating value for these people who feel like they have no value at all. So
Right.
you're igniting a flame, and it can spread. And then these people who would have been depressed are now have something that can quantifiably get them out of their rut, is the hope, at least. And I just think about with the AI, just talking about this, thinking about this 10 years down the line, if they actually have a program that can know them, like a machine who knows them, this could be around the world. And we could, if you use this program, you have a 46.78% chance less of killing yourself or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And if you think back to the social determinants of health, and all of these things like cultural influences, race, ethnicity, family history, whatever you want to measure, right? The cool stuff with the technology is that we can measure it. We can understand who this person is, just like a big company would use all this marketing data to know how to sell you stuff. We can capture that same data through all of these. I won't get into the fancy marketing stuff, but digital marketing is a very, very powerful tool, and we're trying to employ that through a lot of this technology to really make these better informed peer-to-peer connections, right? So
I don't know if anyone's watching. Darian, throw up your what's your Instagram? What's, like, speaking of networking, what's your Instagram? I don't know. Let's see. Can I even see if people are watching? Live stream. Let's see. No data. Okay, whatever. Yeah, what's your Instagram handle for the business?
It's at Compass.
Actually, I think I can go on
PS360.
I can go on Instagram, can I? Just so if anyone's watching, they can see.
Yeah, pull it up.
Share screen. Share screen. All right. Here we go. Not now. Oh God, someone's personal stuff is going to come up. Someone else's page. Let's go in the search bar. All right. Compass. System overload. Uh-oh. That doesn't sound good for my GarageBand. I have to use the Zoom audio. Here we go. Compass PS. Why is it like ... Compass PS 360 on Instagram. So today you guys have a quote from Gandhi one day ago. Thank you for giving us an amazing hashtag Mental Health Aware Month. You all have been our inspiration, and hope our content has been inspiring, education, positively influencing you all in one form or another. We're here for you. All right, here we go. Gandhi, he's quite the famous guy. We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. Interesting. I definitely agree with the very first part. I think your entire existence in this world comes from the way you choose to perceive things, or the way you perceive things in general. We become what we think is so true. So if you in your mind right now think you're going to reach thousands or even millions of people who were like you, and you can see it in your head and you believe it and you're willing to put in the work to do it, it's going to happen. So that's just one example of something like that. I think that's
it's
cool.
Perspective. Perspective's huge.
You guys post stuff like this all the time, right? And these so there's you. You look great,
so,
man.
So the goal is to.
Are these like the peers?
These are people on my team and just some of my friends. I can't hear you.
Okay, let me stop the thing. All right, you go ahead again.
Is it working?
Yeah, it was because I was off Zoom.
So yeah, those were some of people on the team, and also just people in my network, some of my friends that were in Friends for Friends, who I just said, hey, we really wanted to keep our content. I know we talked about a lot of really like technical stuff, but we want our content to just be relatable. You know what I mean? Like we want to show people that recovery is real, and it can happen and it's different for everybody. And that vulnerability is power. You know what I mean? Everybody struggles with something. That's okay. And it's okay to go struggle with something, and it's okay to not be okay. And we wanted to use, just people in the community, and share their stories, real people, right? Just real students, just like me.
This is what your business is. It is real people. It's about real.
When you boil it down, it's about real people just being relatable and having a story to tell, and using that story to, inspire hope. So that was kind of the goal of our content so far. I mean, we have some other things that we're like planning, like we want to do some video content. I've thought about, doing sort of like my own type of podcast where, I'm just kind of having these discussions about mental health with people and kind of sharing these stories.
What kind of people were you thinking?
I mean, like people who are all types of people involved with mental health, people who have experienced it personally, people who are subject matter experts, people from the clinical side of things, people who are, mental health advocates or influencers. Still working on it. It's just kind of an idea, but
here's a little experience. And then shout out to Business Talks podcast hosted by Inbound Web Development, new podcast coming out soon, hosted by our friend Bailey Canning. I'm sure you'll be hopping on there soon, so you have some more practice with the whole podcast thing. I think it's cool. We're emphasizing discussion over like the visuals, because like everyone wants to see like eye drawing, or like they want eye drawing headlines, but like this podcast, like it's been like 2 hours and 20 minutes already. I think my GarageBand app is overloaded from audio, and I feel like I've learned so much just from talking to you for 2 hours. And then like, this is going to be archived forever. This is never going to go away, this conversation. That's like, so, me, I love making videos and looking back at the old videos. This is, I'm just taking it all in, man. And I'm also curious if.
And hey, man, I'm happy to come back. And
I mean, it seems like we've got a ways to go with figuring out how this is all going to work. But the idea is there. It's tough, and I really want to talk a lot about enlightened self-interest and the idea of shifting the business world towards companies that provide real stakeholder value, like more than just bottom line profit, which I think inevitably leads to more financial gain as well. Like in my introductory episode, I talked about Amazon providing so much value, and then people were criticizing the leader of the company. But I mean, you can't just measure the dollar sign. You really need to the dollar sign is meant to measure what the company puts out, but you really need to measure so many factors. I mean, like I got my moisturizing facial wash in 2 days, man. Like my skin's going to be so clear. Like, I'm happy. It makes me happy. Like
what you're saying makes me think back to the summer when, I thought I had this great idea that really would get to the root of this student, mental health crisis. And all I was hearing was, how does it make money? Well, what's the business model? How does it make money? And important. For a while I was like, I don't know yet, but in the back of my head, the thing that kept me going, the thing that really kept me really, really stubborn on this vision and not,
there's a need, because there's a need.
Right. Because I figured that if I could solve this problem, or at least, make a significant enough dent, and provide value, as you said, I'll figure that part out. I'll figure the money part out. And it's
funny, and you're talking about kind of building a tech company in a way. It seems like a lot of the new businesses are tech companies, and the big, like arguably one of the biggest, most successful, groundbreaking technology companies, which is an essential service in life now, is Facebook. And he knew he was going to make a lot of money, but he just didn't worry about that in the beginning. I mean, maybe he did, maybe I don't know the story correctly, but it seems like, again, I think Spotify was losing money 2 years ago when I was in Australia, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Jesus, I don't know how long ago it was. Spotify was still losing money, but the need was still there. So it's like, once you capitalize on that need, the possibilities are endless. And I think if you can really quantify the value that you're offering, which I think is easy to see. It's one person who's still alive versus who isn't. I mean, we just prioritized keeping people alive over the whole global civilization in the last few months. People really value other people's lives. So I think that's a huge competitive advantage you may have. I don't know if that's the right terminology for this situation, but yeah, like it's important issues need to be solved, and that's how we progress and move forward.
Right. And this is I mean, this is a whole nother argument we can have, because, you know, in some of my classes, we were learning about what good social entrepreneurship looks like, and what not so good social entrepreneurship looks like. And by not so good, I mean, you know, and I don't want to get, you know, too far deep into any names or anything, but people with a lot of money think that they can solve a problem by donating a lot of money to that problem. But in reality, the problem doesn't need money, right? The problem needs like a complete restructuring. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like shoes, for example. You know,
this is an interesting segue that we might have to go off of, because the way, I don't know if anyone's, whatever, when people are watching this, I'm Ethan Shapiro, the climate change realtor. 50% of my profits are donated to fight climate change. So you kind of just threw a jab at my business right now. So I'm interested in talking about this a bit more, because I don't think I'm personally qualified to go out and use my skill set to prevent climate disaster. But I do believe I'm very well equipped to sell real estate and generate a lot of income from that. Enough income, much more than I will need to live off of. So
here's the thing, and don't get me wrong. So giving money isn't a bad thing. Giving money isn't a bad thing. Just make sure you're giving it to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Well, I think a huge part of this podcast is going to be talking to people who I think know where the money will go better than me. A lot of people in Boulder spend their career working to combat climate change. I've talked to people at the door who are climate scientists, who are engineers, who are teachers, who are people who are very dedicated to this topic. And I'm really interested in learning. And I think as far as your skill set goes, you're very passionate about this. I was very passionate about business and making money and making profit. But when I looked like deeper into myself, I realized that wasn't going to give me the true satisfaction that I'm looking for out of life. If I'm just, I've got all this money, like the only really fun thing to do with it is spend it. And I'm not like a bougie, go buy a Lexus or whatever kind of guy. Like, I want to make good for the world. And most importantly, I want to make sure there is a world to have good in. So
I would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, climate change is one thing that, you know, if I had more time, I would love to explore it.
We got to do your passion.
Maybe sometime down the road. I think it is a huge problem, and I really respect what you're doing and how you're taking that socially conscious approach to.
It's fun. It's fun.
Something that's novel, like real estate. You know.
Yeah. Right.
And it's good, and I agree. Like you're doing this because at the end of the day, it makes you feel better that you have that. You know, that value add.
I wouldn't be able to work as hard just for myself. It's just not how I'm wired. I can work really hard, but I need some kind of external stimulation. I need to be realizing that the work I'm doing today, like when I was hitting the streets earlier for the first time in January, what's going to keep me going, getting up and going and knocking on more doors every day? Sure, I need to survive and make money, but I've never been worried about that. If I was so worried about that, I would just get a job and get paid. But what kept me going in the beginning is this idea. I'm like, it's me out here, man. Like I'm the guy that's trying to save the world. And if you fail, the world gets destroyed. That's how I like to motivate myself. I'm kind of like crazy, I guess, like that. I like to get into the extremes of life, I suppose, but it really makes me more motivated because I got to work twice as hard and my life will have so much more impact, you know? So I think the point is the thing about just donating money is no big deal. It's just because my skill set though is in sales. Like maybe my skill set's podcasting. We'll find out. But my skill set is in sales, and that's what I was going to do. I knew I would be able to make the most impact by doing that. So to make the most impact, at least it just made more sense to donate my quantifiable value rather than give it out in a different way and try and learn all these things when I'm already educated in business.
Right. But, and I think, donating it to the right cause is the right move. But going back to that example, a company like Tom's Shoes, donating shoes.
I've heard this.
To donating shoes to, wherever poor countries, poor neighborhoods, oftentimes they don't need shoes. They have all these extra shoes. Everybody has shoes, but it's
also,
it's still a poor country. It's kind of like, I would compare it to like the climate change industry's version of greenwashing. You know what I mean? Like, we say we're sustainable.
Define greenwashing.
So greenwashing is, oh man, you don't know greenwashing? Greenwashing is basically making your product or making your company, your service look sustainable so that people buy into it more, when in reality, it's not.
Clean coal, everyone.
Yeah, there's multiple examples. I mean, Google greenwashing, and there's way different examples of, for example, one example is the boxed water stuff. It's like, water is better out of a box. I mean, that box isn't really recyclable. So yeah, you cut back on plastic, but it's greenwashing. It's like you can't really recycle that box.
Okay,
and that
I got
you know what I mean?
On greenwashing.
So that's an example of greenwashing. It's kind of saying, you're sustainable, and that you're socially conscious, when in reality you might be a little bit, but is it really enough to, you know what I mean? You're kind of like hiding. It's a little shady. Yeah. It's a little shady, honestly.
Well, yeah, there's definitely this movement towards socially responsible businesses, and I'm going to get into this a lot on this show. But you got to be careful in both ways, not to over believe what you're told, but at the same time give credit where credit's due.
Right. And another example is like with food, there's certified organic, right? Which is a mess. Legit. And then there's all natural.
Okay.
All natural
is certified organic legit? Because I had heard that there's no hard, fast, defined term for the word organic.
I mean,
not your area of expertise.
I'd like to think so.
Let's get it up.
I would like
to think so. This is how we got to do it. Okay.
I think there's
failure.
I think there's some degree of certification.
Shout out Ecosia, always. Organic food is produced by methods that comply with the standards of organic farming. Standards vary worldwide, but organic farming features practices that cycle resources, promote ecological balance, and conserve biodiversity. See, is organic have a hard definition? Because I had heard that like you could just do like it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthier.
I think it just means it was farmed to what would be considered the standard,
Yeah. What the USDA organic label means. All right, USDA.gov. When it comes to processed foods, none of it's grown hand using no genetically modified. So that's a long thing.
Right. So but that's basically what I meant by certified organic. Like the USDA is going to that, that farm and checking and seeing what they're doing, right? And if what they're doing meets their standards, then they can certify as organic. But if you're a farm and you're producing something and you want to say all natural, you can say all natural.
I'm misinformed.
What does that really mean?
I'm obviously misinformed because there is a hard, fast definition for organic and it's certifiable. I'm dumb. So this will be another trend of this show. And hopefully I'll get smarter. But you're right. All natural is greenwashing, basically, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Yes, I get it. And where were you going with this?
I mean, that's where I was going. You're trying
So
to solve a
we started
problem. So
talking
where I
about
was
this,
where I was
my
going
business.
is
Yeah,
where I
yeah.
was going is that if like people try to say they're solving a problem so that they can say that they're solving a problem, so that more people look at them and they say, oh, he's giving back. They're giving back. They're socially conscious, when really they're not digging deep, deep, deep into the root of that problem. Like, I personally think that you shouldn't solve a problem unless either you yourself have had that problem or you've talked to multiple, and I mean a lot, of people who have that problem. And you do your best, you do absolutely everything that you can to experience that problem. Don't go to another city, don't go to another country and think that you can just show up and solve all their problems until you've lived in their shit, you've experienced their problem, and you know what that problem is. Or you talk to enough of them where you understand that problem so well that you can actually make a true impact, versus just showing up to that country and giving people money or giving people shoes or stuff to try and make a difference, and then going back and saying, hey, we went over here and we did this, and we're better because of that. That's kind of where I was getting with all of this. So, like, circling back to what I'm working on, I really didn't want to just create a fake solution. I really want to solve this problem. You know what I mean? And it's a
Yeah, 'cause
problem that I've experienced. It's a problem that I've talked to,
I know so
numerous
many
students.
people who have as well. I'm sorry. I'm just like looking at, I don't think we're actually live. I'm not sure. It says waiting for Ethan Shapiro. I think I might have had to click like start or something, but I mean, we still got the whole thing. Oh no,
We still got it
I
recorded.
don't know. I'll have to look. Am I like, yeah, whatever. It's the first one. Stream. All right. Whatever. Jesus. So yeah, it is so important, honestly. Like, it seems like there's it's a multifaceted problem, which means it requires a multifaceted solution, and this is just one of the steps. I mean, we, like you said, we used to have institutions. Like, I know people have seen like one flew over the cuckoo's nest, and we have school shooters, and we have pedophiles. Apparently there's a lot going on in that thing underground, so I've heard. And it just seems like, yeah, like we need to give people a chance to talk, and we need to document it and compile data and study it. And I love what you're doing, man. I
Appreciate it.
hope it gets way further, and you have 1 million affiliates, and you guys all get together and just for good, just to try and help people. And this is heavy. It's not just you out there. There's so many other people who want to help with something like this. And the fact of the matter is, it hasn't been done well yet. If we've got 44,000 suicides and 3 average mass shootings a year, I mean, there's always going to be these crazy people. And then we can obviously get into the whole debate over guns, but at our core, just not everyone's going to take it. But if we could slice these numbers in half, just by giving resources to these people, that to make them feel like they have a place, and it's whatever they want, and their mind's the only thing limiting them from having a place.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things. Again, another social entrepreneur term. It's what we would call a wicked problem, which means that no matter how hard you try to solve this problem, it's never going to be fully solved. It's never going to fully go away, and you have to accept that.
I remember this
because this problem it's always going to develop. It's going to change over time. There's going to be new things. I mean, like, think of where we are right now. Think of social distancing and quarantining. Had a really terrible negative effect on people's mental health. So even if the answer came out, a year ago to solve everybody's mental health struggles, boom, you have something like this happen. And how do you adjust? How do you adapt? That's really what the root of a wicked problem is.
I don't know the answer, man, but it seems like, you're going to keep going and you're going to do it. And
Yeah.
You're going to find a way, because there's always unlimited answers.
Yep. And
it's just
it
about
doesn't
finding
matter.
the best one.
I mean, it doesn't matter what, problem
Cool.
you're solving, whether it's a social problem or whether you're, whether you're a company like Apple. I mean, they solve problems, but they do it in a way, I always like to say customer discovery never ends. It's the first thing you do. It's the second thing, third thing, fourth thing, fifth thing, all the way to the end. It doesn't matter what stage you are as a company. If you're not listening to your customers and doing what they tell you to do, then you're losing. And that's why huge companies go bankrupt, is because they either stray too far away from their core and they start doing stuff that really wasn't what they were meant to be doing in the first place. And they tank because they, have all these expenses and something happens like coronavirus, for example, and they can't cover their costs now. Or, companies that have something that eventually, changes and advances. The technology becomes outdated and they couldn't keep up with the curve because they're not talking to their customers. They're not putting that experience.
Go ahead.
They're not putting the customer experience. I mean, it always comes first. Always.
Can you run me through what your day-to-day looks like now in regards to what you're doing with the business?
Day to day. So I wake up anywhere between like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Try to start working by 8. And I mean, it's really kind of chaotic at this stage, but essentially, I just have various stuff that I need to get done.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro. There's literally a button that says go live and I didn't click it. So if I click it now, I guess it'll start at the beginning. So we're at 1 hour and 55 minutes. So whatever. If I hit go live, what is it going to go right to us? Oh God, it goes to right now. No kidding. All right, cool. So we're gonna keep the recording and post that. All right. So that's the way.
That's fine. It says live.
No, it is fine. It is fine. Like I
screen.
said, the conversation will never have disappeared. I wanted to go live. I will never make this mistake again. There's a button. Press called go live.
It says live in the corner on my screen.
Yeah, so the Zoom is live. It's streaming it to YouTube, but I didn't hit live on YouTube. I had it set up, but I didn't hit the live button. So there's no way to go live, which is okay. But like I said, cut me some slack from my first episode. I've still got the audio file and I've got the video file.
Yeah, it's all good. We got a lot of great stuff. But I actually have to wrap up soon.
Very good.
I got got a team huddle and they're waiting for me.
I got you.
But man, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love talking about this stuff, just entrepreneurship in general, mental health, love talking about it. Love to talk more about climate change, real estate, all this stuff. I mean, I'm just really passionate about being in the business of solving problems. Yeah. I mean, that's really what entrepreneurs are. And I truly believe that if you're solving a problem out there, then, consider yourself an entrepreneur to some degree. So I'm really passionate about this stuff. I'd love to come back. I'd love to check out your studio, make a trip out to Colorado when I get a chance.
I know you will, man.
And, pick up where we left off. And just really happy to be here. And thank you for having me.
Well, is that your team calling you?
Yeah, that's them.
Give me 1 second. Well, thank you for coming on here and talking about something. It's very interesting. It's a lot of details, very, very intense stuff, very hard to wrap your head around for someone who doesn't know anything about it. But when you allow me to understand, which is what talking does, we can talk it out, and I'm sure that every time you talk about it, you'll get better. I'm inspired by it because the motivation is purely positive. It comes from a place where you found something in someone that helped you exponentially, and you now want to share it with everyone, and you want to dedicate your life, what you do every day, to that. And you're about to get on this call with your team, and we're going to not mess up the live stream next time, and we're going to post this, and it'll be cool. But
yeah, we're going to keep grinding.
And we're going to keep grinding, both of us. Thank you so much, Darian, for coming on here and doing this. Of course, something had to mess up on the first episode, the live. I tried all the things, but whatever.
Good.
No, it's no big deal at all, because we did it. It went well. It's cool to hear your perspective. I think 100% you're going to be coming back on here to talk more about the progress of what's going on. And we'll hopefully me and you can be better informed as far as statistics and stuff, to not to be throwing up on Google every 5 minutes, but we very well may.
I mean, we can use Google. Why not?
Well, Ecosia is what we want. Anyways, thank you everyone for not tuning in. I hope you're watching this now. This has been Changing the Climate with Darien Elmendorf, and it has been an absolute pleasure. If you are looking to buy or sell real estate in Boulder, Colorado, you know who the guy to use is. So I will be looking forward to a future podcast. Thank you very much, Darian.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Take care, everyone, and stay positive. There's people out there looking to help. There always are. You're not alone. Thank you all very much.
Look out for yourself.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and end the meeting or end the recording. I guess we'll end the meeting. 2012, everybody.